Did you know there is a direct link between your heart health and your brain health? Recent studies show that people with cardiovascular problems are up to 70% more likely to develop Alzheimer's over their lifetime. In other words, when you protect your heart, you're also protecting your memory, your focus, and even your identity. And here's something even more fascinating. Some of the most powerful habits to prevent these diseases are neither complicated nor expensive. They are simple actions, like what you put on your plate, how much you move, and even the way you handle stress. What most people don't know is that small lifestyle changes can reduce the risk of dementia by up to 40%, while also drastically lowering the chances of heart attacks and strokes. In today's video, I, Dr. Vitallis, will show you the science-backed habits that act as a real shield against Alzheimer's and heart disease. You'll learn which foods help keep your arteries clean and your brain active, how one specific type of exercise can improve circulation and stimulate new neural connections, and why quality sleep and stress management are far more important than most people realize. If you want to live a long life with a strong heart and a sharp mind, stay with me until the end, because every detail I share here can change the course of your health. And before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the Longevity channel and hit the notification bell, because every week I bring you science-based content to help you live longer, healthier, and better. The first habit that can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and heart disease is protective nutrition. What you put on your plate every day can either be a silent poison or a true natural medicine for your body and brain. Studies show that diets rich in sugars, trans fats, and ultra-processed foods increase inflammation in the body, promote artery clogging, and at the same time accelerate the buildup of toxic proteins in the brain, such as beta amyloid, which is directly linked to Alzheimer's. On the other hand, including anti-inflammatory and antioxidant-rich foods works as a protective shield. The so-called Mediterranean diet, for example, has been studied in thousands of people and has shown to reduce the risk of heart disease by up to 30%, while also lowering the likelihood of cognitive decline. Some of the most important foods include omega-3 rich fish, such as salmon and sardines, which protect the heart and support communication between neurons. Berries like blueberries and strawberries, packed with antioxidants that fight free radicals and preserve memory. Extra virgin olive oil, which reduces inflammation and keeps arteries flexible. Dark green vegetables, such as spinach and kale, which provide B vitamins essential for brain health. Nuts, like walnuts and almonds, which improve vascular health and reduce the risk of cognitive decline. And here's a fascinating fact. Researchers at the Rush University Medical Center in Chicago developed the MIND diet, a fusion of the Mediterranean and DASH diets. The study showed that people who strictly followed this diet reduced their risk of Alzheimer's by up to 53%. Even those who followed it only moderately had about a 35% lower risk. This proves that any effort to improve your diet already brings significant results. So, start with small choices. Replace fried foods with grilled meals, margarine with olive oil, sweets with fruit, and fast food with homemade meals. Every healthy swap you make today is a direct investment in your heart's health and in protecting your memory for the future. The second fundamental habit to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and heart disease is regular physical exercise. Movement is not just about staying in shape. It is one of the most powerful natural medicines ever studied by science. When you exercise, your heart pumps more blood, improving circulation and delivering oxygen and essential nutrients to every cell in the body, including the brain. This reduces the risk of artery blockages and also stimulates the formation of new neural connections, a process called neuroplasticity, which keeps memory and concentration sharp even as the years go by. A major study published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease followed more than 1,400 people for 20 years and found that those who regularly engaged in moderate physical activity had a 50% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's compared to sedentary individuals. In addition, exercise reduced serious cardiovascular events such as heart attacks and strokes by nearly 40%. And we're not just talking about the gym. Brisk walking, dancing, swimming, cycling, or even gardening already bring impressive results when done consistently. The key is to move your body in ways you enjoy, creating a routine you can sustain for many years. Another fascinating point is that exercise stimulates the release of neurotrophic factors, substances that act like fertilizer for the brain, helping to protect existing neurons and form new connections. In other words, every time you move, you're not only strengthening your muscles and heart, but also rejuvenating your mind. So, choose an activity that suits you and make it a commitment to your longevity. Remember, the body was made to move, and movement is one of the keys to living longer and better.
The third essential habit to protect both the heart and the brain is quality sleep. Sleeping well is not just about rest. It's an active process in which the body undergoes deep repair and the brain performs a true internal cleaning. During deep sleep, the glymphatic system is activated, responsible for removing toxins that accumulate in the brain, including beta-amyloid protein, which is associated with the development of Alzheimer's. When sleep is insufficient or fragmented, these toxic substances build up, increasing the risk of dementia over the years. But the impacts don't stop there. Poor sleep also raises blood pressure, increases the risk of arrhythmias, and disrupts hormonal regulation, creating the perfect environment for heart disease. A study from Harvard Medical School showed that people who sleep between 7 and 8 hours per night not only have a lower risk of cognitive decline, but also show lower cardiovascular mortality compared to those who sleep less than 5 hours or more than 9 hours. This reinforces that both too little and too much sleep can be harmful. And here's a curious fact. Researchers observed that after just one night of poor sleep, measurable changes occur in blood pressure and even an increase in inflammatory markers in the blood. This means the effect is immediate. The body feels it the very next day. To improve sleep quality, some simple practices make all the difference. Keep regular sleep and wake times. Avoid caffeine, alcohol, and heavy meals before bed. Reduce screen use and blue light exposure at night, opting for warmer lighting. Create a dark, quiet, and cool environment, ideal for deep sleep. Develop a relaxing bedtime ritual, such as light reading, deep breathing, or a warm bath. Sleeping well is as powerful as eating right or exercising. When you ensure quality sleep, you are simultaneously cleansing your brain, strengthening your heart, and investing in your longevity. The fourth essential habit to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and heart disease is stress management. When stress is temporary, it can even be useful, helping us stay focused in emergency situations. But when it becomes chronic, it acts like a silent poison that slowly wears down both body and mind. Chronic stress keeps the body in a constant state of alert, raising cortisol levels, the so-called stress hormone. In excess, cortisol increases inflammation, disrupts sleep quality, accelerates cellular aging, and contributes both to the buildup of plaques in the arteries and the accumulation of toxic proteins in the brain, paving the way for heart attacks and dementia. Research from the University of California showed that people with high stress levels had shorter telomeres, the structures that protect DNA, compared to those with lower stress. Shorter telomeres are directly linked to premature aging and a higher risk of heart disease and degenerative conditions, including Alzheimer's. One striking example came from a study with women who cared for ill family members, one of the most emotionally exhausting situations. Researchers found that they had telomeres up to 10 years older than women of the same age without that level of stress. This clearly shows that stress can literally steal years from your life. But there are simple and effective ways to break this cycle. Deep breathing techniques that lower cortisol levels in just a few minutes. Relaxing activities like meditation, prayer, or yoga. Spending time in nature, which has been proven to lower blood pressure and heart rate. Enjoyable hobbies such as reading, music, or gardening, which act as release valves for the mind. Positive social connections, which provide emotional support and reduce the burden of stress. Managing stress is not about eliminating life's problems, but about changing the way your body responds to them. When you learn to manage stress, You protect your heart, preserve your brain, and gain more years of life with quality. The fifth habit, often overlooked, is cultivating good social connections. This is the true hidden secret of youth, because few people realize how much relationships directly influence both heart and brain health. Social isolation increases the risk of depression, anxiety, and even premature death. The American Heart Association warns that loneliness can be as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And when we look at the brain, the effects are just as serious. Lack of social interaction is linked to faster cognitive decline and a higher risk of Alzheimer's. One of the most famous studies on this subject is the Harvard Study of Adult Development, started in 1938 and still ongoing. It followed hundreds of people for decades and revealed something remarkable. The happiest and healthiest people were those who cultivated quality relationships. More than genetics, fame, or wealth, it was social bonds that determined who aged with vitality and who became ill earlier.
I remember a patient named Mrs. Helena who was 74 years old. After losing her husband, she spent years living almost in isolation, eating alone and avoiding social gatherings. Her health began to deteriorate: high blood pressure, lack of energy, and memory lapses. After encouragement, she started participating in a local volunteer group. The impact was visible within months. Her mood improved, her blood pressure stabilized, and her memory became more active. She herself used to say, "It wasn't the medicine that saved me, it was the people." That's the central point. Cultivating good connections doesn't mean having lots of friends, but rather nurturing true bonds where there is support, affection, and a sense of belonging. It could be with family, a close friend, a community group, or even new friendships built along the way. So, if you want to protect your heart, preserve your mind, and achieve longevity with quality, invest in your relationships. Because, in the end, living longer only makes sense when we have someone to share life with. The sixth essential habit to protect the heart and brain is proper hydration. Water takes part in virtually every vital function of the body. It transports nutrients, removes toxins, regulates temperature, and keeps cells functioning properly. When we're dehydrated, even slightly, the blood becomes thicker, forcing the heart to work harder to pump it. In addition, lack of water reduces the flow of oxygen and nutrients to the brain, which can cause memory lapses, difficulty concentrating, and even mood changes. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition showed that losing just 1% of body weight in fluids is enough to impair attention and short-term memory. Another scientific review found that older adults with dehydration have a higher risk of mental confusion and cognitive decline, which reinforces the direct impact of water on brain health. And here's something interesting. Dehydration is often mistaken for hunger. This causes people to eat in excess, when in fact the body just needed fluids. That's why staying hydrated also helps with weight control and prevents overeating. Some warning signs of dehydration include dry mouth, dizziness, very dark urine, dry skin, and constant fatigue. If these symptoms appear often, it's likely that your body is asking for more water. Practical tips to stay hydrated. Drink water throughout the day, even if you're not thirsty. Choose water over soda or packaged juices, which can cause even more dehydration. Include water-rich foods like watermelon, cucumber, and oranges. Reduce excess coffee and alcohol, which promote fluid loss. Keep a water bottle nearby as a constant reminder. Staying well hydrated doesn't just mean quenching your thirst. It means nourishing your brain, protecting your heart, and ensuring that all the body's systems work at their best. The seventh essential habit to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and keep the mind young is continuous mental stimulation. The brain works like a muscle. The more it is used, the stronger and more resilient it becomes. Regular intellectual activities, such as reading, learning new skills, or playing logic-based games, help create and reinforce neural connections, a process called cognitive reserve. This reserve acts as extra protection against mental decline, delaying Alzheimer's symptoms even in people with a genetic predisposition. A study published in the journal Neurology followed more than 2,000 older adults and showed that those who read, wrote, or engaged in regular intellectual activities had a 30% lower risk of developing dementia compared to those who led a mentally passive routine. And here's an interesting detail. Learning something completely new, such as playing a musical instrument, studying a new language, or practicing a new sport, has an even greater impact on the brain. This happens because challenging learning activates areas that normally remain at rest, forcing the brain to reorganize and create new connections. In addition, social activities with intellectual stimulation, like book clubs, board games, or community debates, combine two powerful factors: mental exercise and social interaction, offering double protection for brain health. Practical tips to stimulate your brain every day. Read at least a few pages of a book daily. Learn something new, a language, a recipe, an instrument. Use logic games such as crosswords, puzzles, or chess. Prefer active moments like writing or creating instead of only consuming content passively. Join groups that encourage conversation and reflection. When you regularly challenge your brain, you're not only training your mind, but also building a barrier against Alzheimer's, while ensuring more clarity, creativity, and mental vitality at every stage of life.
The eighth habit to protect the heart, preserve the brain, and increase longevity is regular contact with nature and proper sunlight exposure. Being outdoors is not just leisure, it's a biological necessity. Natural light helps regulate the circadian rhythm, which improves sleep quality and consequently supports brain regeneration processes. In addition, sun exposure is the main way for the body to produce vitamin D, a nutrient essential for bone health, the immune system, the heart, and even brain function. A study published in the Journal of Aging and Health showed that older adults who spent more time in natural environments had a 20% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality and lower levels of depression. This happens because nature reduces cortisol levels, lowers blood pressure, and increases the sense of well-being. Another fascinating fact: Japanese researchers studied the practice called Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, which involves walking mindfully among trees. Results showed that in just 20 minutes of walking in nature, there was already a significant reduction in heart rate and stress levels. Practical tips to apply daily. Spend at least 15 to 20 minutes in the sun every day, preferably in the morning. Walk in parks, gardens, or trails whenever possible. If you can't go outside, care for plants, open windows, and let in natural light. Use this time to walk, breathe deeply, and disconnect from screens. Contact with nature is simple, free, and powerful. It nourishes not only the body but also the mind and spirit. And when combined with proper sunlight exposure, it becomes one of the most complete habits to ensure longevity with vitality. Now that you've learned these 8 habits that protect the heart, preserve the brain, and increase longevity, remember this: it's not about drastic changes or miracle solutions, but about small daily choices that, when combined, completely transform your health. Balanced nutrition, movement, quality sleep, stress management, good social connections, hydration, mental stimulation, and contact with nature. Each of these is a piece of a larger puzzle called longevity. And when you put them all together, you create a powerful shield against Alzheimer's, heart disease, and premature aging. And here's the key message I want you to take away. Living longer is not just about adding years to your life, but adding life to your years. Now, tell me in the comments, which of these habits do you already practice, and which one will you start today? I'd love to hear your answer. And before you go, make sure to subscribe to the Longevity channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video with someone you love. because when we spread this knowledge, we help more people live with health, vitality, and joy. I'm Dr. Vitallis, and I'll see you in the next video.